Good morning, Year 10. I'm going to do another YouTube walkthrough lesson with you today. I'm going to kind of carry on what we were doing last time. Again, it's on the topic of school. It's going to a few different things, so let's get cracking. Basically, first part of today's lesson, just to recap on some school-based, this whole topic's on school, and it's about some school vocab and phrases from this topic. And then I'm going to talk you through a little bit more grammar. It's actually quite good to do grammar during lockdown, actually, in some ways, although it's not as great as doing it in school, obviously. In some ways, actually, doing it over a YouTube lesson gives me an opportunity to explain it in a way that's not necessarily too disadvantageous. And then finally, we're going to just recap, doing a quick activity that recaps describing a photo briefly. That's in advance of our first. I'm going to do a Zoom lesson, live lesson on Friday, so there'll be some more details about that. Okay, first thing I'd like you to do then is just to write your date and title as normal, please, in perfect tense grammar. First of all, just think about how you would, say these subjects. So there's three subjects there, how you would say these subjects. And then if you can just pause there for a minute, I'm going to give you a couple of sentences to write out in full. They're basically a little gap fill exercise. So first of all, how would you say these subjects? Let's give you a minute to think about that. Okay, from left to right. Le dessin, art. PE is le EPS, and histoire, l'histoire, history. Okay, what I'd like you to do then is to, once you've written your date and title, you can pause the video here at any point if you need it a little bit longer. To either go back in your vocab books and have a look for the vocab, or just kind of have a think about how you would complete these sentences. So first of all, can you translate the sentence, we must wear the school uniform? And then there's a bit of a help there with a few little gaps for you. Again, just pause the video if you need a little bit longer. Do about 10 seconds. I'm going to put the answer up. Okay, remember this key phrase here. We must do something. Is il faut porter l'uniforme scolaire. Okay, second one. We must do our homework. There's the gap fill. It gets slightly harder each time. Okay, pause the video if you need a little bit longer. The answer, il faut faire, c'est devoir. Important word there, devoir, the word to mean homework. We must be on time. There's the gap fill. Okay, the answer. Il faut être à l'heure. And using the different other phrase that we used, it is forbidden to do something. It's forbidden to go out of school. Yeah, you need to think about the word here, to go out. We did do it last week in the context of verbs in the past tense. Okay, the answer. The phrase is il est interdit de. Il est interdit de. It is forbidden. To go out is sortir de l'école. Okay, next one. It's forbidden to use your phone in class. Need a bit of help with the vocab. Gap. Use a little bit of a clue here. You can tell where my mouse is going here with a D with an apostrophe. You know, therefore, that the next letter needs to be what? It needs to be a vowel. And this is where the verb comes, the verb in the infinitive. So can you remember what the verb is to use? Think about another cognate in English. And you also, the word missing there, word for mobile phone. And class is, it sounds like a cognate, it's spelt like a neocognate. So have a look at the gaps there and the number of gaps. And think about where the extra letter might be. Okay. Il est interdit d'utiliser. Quite important word to use. Son portable en classe. Okay, and last one. Quite hard, a little bit harder this one, hardest one of the lot. It is forbidden to wear jewellery or too much makeup. So there's a couple of different bits. So you need the full phrase of it is forbidden to do something. Then it's your verb to wear. One letter clue there. The word for jewellery, have a look at the letter it begins with and see if that helps you. There's a word in English that we sometimes use to mean jewellery. And then a little clue at the end there about the word for makeup. So you may not get all of these, it doesn't matter so much. Just try and do your best with it. And then the answer, il est interdit de porter des bijoux. Okay, we do use the word bijoux to mean jewellery. Ou trop de, too much, maquillage, makeup. Okay. Remember then, there are two key phrases, okay, to talk about what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do in school. Relate to school rules. Il faut, we must, and il est interdit de. Okay, I'm going to stress how important those two are to try and learn. They're both followed by, remember, the infinitive. Okay, that's why they're quite easy to use. Il faut and il est interdit de. Okay, last week then, we looked at the perfect tense. Okay, the perfect tense, the past tense. We're going to look at a different form of the past, talking about the past today, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail to explain it. Here, what I wanted you to do last week, hopefully you did, was, and thank you to those of you who did send it in to me, they were very good, your past tenses. And we looked at recapping how you recognize them and use them using j'ai, the past participles with the E accent, you, I, T, some of them ending. We looked at some of those past participles, and we looked at the ones that take, this is Van der Tramp verbs that take je suis, and talked about their agreement on the end of it, and how they're verbs of movement and status. Okay, these are the perfect tense then talks. This is the most common one, but it's not exclusively the only way you talk in the past. To talk about things that have been completed in the past. So when I asked you last week to write me 10 sentences about what you were doing during lockdown, what you have done during lockdown. The reason you would have used the perfect tense is because all of the things that you will have done during lockdown would have been completed. The things you were describing, for example, there were people who were talking about what they had read or what they had done, and all these things had been completed. Okay, what we're looking at today is we're going to look at it in the context of some school activities, but we're going to look at the imperfect tense. So the perfect tense is a completed action in the past. We're going to look at the imperfect tense. So whereas the perfect tense uses the completed action, the imperfect tense is used for basically describing three different things. Something that you used to do. The reason I've highlighted that is because that's actually what we're mainly going to be looking at today. But you use the imperfect tense to talk about what you used to do on a regular basis. So for example, when we're talking about school activities, what you used to do is you used to go to football. You used to play football, or you used to have a lot of free time. Okay, or it can be to describe an incomplete action, or it can be used as a general description. Now, you will have used the imperfect tense several times. For example, if you were to say il y avait or c'était, two ways to describe something, you would have used the imperfect tense there as a description. I'm going to watch a short video. I'm going to show you a short video about the imperfect tense from the BBC Bitesize website. It's going to go in as a description a little bit further than we're going to look at today, but it's quite a good alternative way of looking at it. Okay.
Imperfect tense, or that incomplete, habitual, or descriptive past tense. The French imperfect is a past tense that's different to the perfect tense. It can describe an incomplete action in the past, like I was listening closely when my partner sneezed. A habitual action in the past, like I used to sing every day. A description in the past, like the equipment was bulky. To form the imperfect, take the nous form of the present tense of a verb. Écouter, for example, would be nous écoutons. Remove the ONS and you're left with écoute. Then add these endings. For example, nous écoutions leur discussion tous les jours. Or, ils parlaient trop vite. The verbs avoir and être are commonly used in the imperfect tense, like this. Il y avait toujours des problèmes.
Actually, just to pause that a second there, we have used il y avait before quite a lot to describe things that there was something. It's used as a description. Okay, so you'll probably be familiar with that one.
Problème or c'était
And you will certainly have seen the word c'était.
compliqué.
Okay, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kind of like boil it down. If you go back here, this is how you form the imperfect tense. The rule technically, I'm actually going to sort of teach you it. I'm going to try and teach it in a more simple way than this for today. The way you form it is by forming the new form of the present tense. You take off the ONS.
Ton. Remove the ONS.
So you're left with what you would call your stem. Okay, and then you add your endings. It's AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, and AIENT. I have been through this before, so again, some of you may be kind of familiar with this. You'll notice here that this stem here, which we've done by taking off the ONS here, is just the same stem in this verb as it would be just if you took the ER off, the infinitive, which you're probably a bit more familiar with doing. So I'm actually going to teach it to you in this way today. We'll come on to that in a second. Some examples here, for example. And this is going to be concentrating a little bit more on what we're going to do today. In perfect tense, is used to talk about the things that used to happen regularly in the past. Quand j'étais, see the AIS endings. The big clue here is the AIS ending. That is what tells you is the verbs in the imperfect tense. Quand j'étais petite, je jouais tous les jours. When I was little, I used to play every day. It's a description of what you used to do in the past. Or, avant, before, je faisais du sport tous les matins. I used to do sport every morning. So whereas I said that there was a more complicated way of forming the imperfect tense, I'm going to slightly simplify it today. And it's not actually really what I shouldn't really do this. I could be struck off the magic circle by telling you this, but I'm going to simplify it for you anyway, and just so that we can get a little bit more familiar with the imperfect tense in an easier way. I've got here on the left-hand side some verbs related to things you might do in school. Okay, jouer, to play, chanter, to sing, aller, to go. And then three underneath that I've put slightly further down because they're going to be the ones that don't follow this kind of pattern. Faire, avoir, faire to do, avoir to have, être to be. In the imperfect tense, what we're going to do here, we're going to look at how you would take away the ER. Again, this is not the correct way of learning it, the correct rule really, but for now it's going to be the simplest way of recognizing it at least. Taking away your ER, and you're adding an AIS onto the end of it. So you take off the ER and AIS onto the end of it. Je jouais, this would mean I used to play. Je chantais, again you take off the ER and you're adding your AIS, I used to sing. And j'allais, I used to go. Three more underneath here. These are going to be the ones that don't follow this because we're not doing the same rule here. We're not taking it off and the ending off and putting the AIS on straight onto the end of it. But maybe these are just for now the easiest ones just to learn what they look like. So our translation says, je jouais, I used to play, I used to sing, I used to go, I used to do, je faisais, I used to have, and j'étais, I used to be. So the key point here is if you've seen a verb with AIS on the end of it, it's likely to, in this context, it's likely to be in an imperfect tense. You then would have to look at what the rest of the verb looks like, what your stem of the verb looks like, and that's going to give you the best clue as to what the verb means. Okay, so AIS on the end is I used to do something, and the stem of the verb is going to tell you what the verb actually is. So, for example, here we saw this grid last time, lots of infinitives. So what I'm going to do is just to go through them here and just give you an idea about how you would change a verb like this into the past, into the imperfect tense. So, for example, we've got the verb travailler, to work. Same thing, je travaillais, I used to work. Donner, to give something. Je donnais, I used to give. Je jouais, I used to play. Demander, you might remember the verb to ask. So, je demandais, I used to ask. Étudier, What you take off the ER here and add AIS. What else might we be looking out for? You may have spotted we need the J apostrophe rather than je because étudier, the verb, begins with an E. And manger, look carefully at this one. Our rule up to now has been take off the ER and add an AIS onto the end. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the E on. Why? Because if you were to take the E off and you were left with M-A-N-G-A-I-S, that would spell in French, you pronounce that as manger, and that doesn't sound like the verb to eat. So they keep the E on here, just as a slight irregularity. Okay, je mangeais, I used to eat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the rest of the ones here onto the screen, pause the screen for a minute, and see if you can work out what these verbs would mean. Okay, we've got the infinitives here. We looked at these last time. You may remember some of them. So it's just an exercise in getting used to looking at these infinitives again. I'll turn them into the imperfect tense. Pause the video. See if you can work out what they mean. Okay, next exercise then. And what I'd like you to do is just to write 1 to 7. And we're going to do a short listening exercise. I'm going to play the listening exercise over the video. What I'd like you to do is just listen to the phrases as they're read out, and if you can match up 1 to 7, the verbs on the left-hand side with what they mean on the right-hand side. Once you've done that, I want to see if you can just translate the phrases into English as best you can. They're all things that you used to do. So, à l'école primaire, at primary school, what did you used to do? See if you can match up as a listening, just what they say. The start of the phrase is verb, j'avais, j'étais, je jouais, je chantais, je participais, je faisais, j'allais. And once you've matched them up, can you translate the 7 sentences into English to describe what people used to do in primary school?
À l'école primaire, j'avais beaucoup de temps libre. J'étais membre de l'équipe de basket et je jouais à cache-cache pendant la récréation. Je chantais dans une chorale et je participais au spectacle de Noël. En plus, je faisais du judo et de temps en temps, j'allais au zoo avec ma classe.
Okay, so you can just kind of rewind the video then and do that again if you need to. Just listen to it, match up 1 to 7, and then think about what the people used to do at primary school. I'm going to go through the answers now. J'avais beaucoup de temps libre. I used to have a lot of free time. Okay, linguistic clue there. You should know the word beaucoup, a lot of. Temps libre. We talked about libre as an adjective before, and they kind of related to the word liberty, freedom, and it means free time. Number 2, j'étais membre de l'équipe de basket. I was a member of the basketball team. Number 3, je jouais à cache-cache pendant la récréation. You may not know this. Cache-cache is the game hide and seek. Pendant la récréation. Je chantais dans une chorale. I used to sing in a choir. Je participais au spectacle de Noël. So I used to participate, or maybe a better way of translating that in English is to take part in the Christmas show. Je faisais du judo. You may remember, again, our activities like judo, the things that aren't maybe strictly a sport, often using the verb faire to do. And finally, j'allais au zoo avec ma classe. I used to go to the zoo with my class. Okay, so that just terminates just for today. We're going to look at it again next time I do a online lesson, a little bit more about the imperfect tense. So remember, the imperfect tense, something that you used to do, something that was an incomplete or maybe interrupted action, or something that is a broad description of something in the past. Okay, to finish off the last part of the online lesson today is we're just going to, on Friday on our live lesson, I'm going to try and go back and try and see if I can do some speaking practice, basically. I'm going to see how that works, first of all. A bit of a shot in the dark. But I'm going to just recap how you would describe a photo. which is not something we've done in a little while. Okay, so here in the prompt at the top, décris la photo et donne ton opinion sur les comédies à la télé. Okay, décris la photo, describe the photo et donne ton opinion sur les comédies à la télé. Give your opinion on comedies on TV. Quick recap then. You'll have all seen In-Betweeners, I'm sure. The kind of like way of remembering the things that you need to do when describing a photo. PALM, picture, action, location, mood. What's in the picture, first of all? Describe as fully as you can, using as much vocab as you can. Action, what are they doing in the photo? Location, where are they? And then mood also, if you can try and use some sort of, the word we use is inference, try and infer something about how they might be feeling from what you can see and why. Suggested phrases are at the bottom. Il porte. Don't forget the ENT here. There's quite a few examples of ENT. Remember, what don't we do with ENT? We don't pronounce it. Il porte, they are wearing. Il semble, they seem. Ils sont, they are. And ils sont en train de, which you may remember is the way, I'm going to have to do this a bit more next year, describing things that they are doing. Ils sont en train de is a way of sort of narrating what they are doing at the time. It's a way of saying they are in the middle of doing something, literally. And you can just follow that with the infinitive, which is why it makes it easier to use. If you wanted to say, for example, they are walking, ils sont en train de, and then simply the word for walking afterwards. Okay? So you maybe, I ask you to pause the video here and take 5 minutes to see how much you can write down about what's in that photo. You can go away and use wordreference.com or any of the other resources that you have and the materials you have. Just try and describe that photo as best you can in the 4 different sections: picture, action, location, and mood. And then I'm going to go through some suggestions about what you might put in and see if you've missed anything out. Okay, so if you pause the video now, take about 5 minutes to do that. Okay, so this is what I've come up with as some suggestions possibly for what you might say. In terms of people here, I've 6 or 7 different phrases that I've come up with. We could say, for example, dans la photo, il y a 4 personnes. So a description, how many people are in the photo. You could say, instead of personnes, you could say, of course, garçons, boys, or adolescents, teenagers. Ils portent, don't forget the pronunciation, ils portent tous, they are all wearing, this word tous meaning all, they are all wearing un pantalon noir. Remember when we went back to the directions, you could describe what's in the foreground and in the background, or on the left and the right. Left à gauche, right à droite. Okay, Simon and Neil, if you know you're in between, is porte. Again, ENT ending because they are more than one person. Simon and Neil porte un pull bleu. Remember back to your vocab on clothes. You need to recap your vocab on clothes. We've got the my emoji signs. Bleu, the description blue. Remember, comes after the noun. À gauche, le garçon porte une veste noire. Okay, so on the left, the boy is wearing a black jacket. The word noir here agrees as well with the noun. Les autres portent un manteau. What might les autres mean? Les autres means the others. Porte un manteau. Will a une portefeuille, mais les autres portent un sac. What do you think portefeuille might be? Portefeuille is the word for briefcase. Porter to carry something, literally to carry or wear. And feuille is a piece of paper. So a briefcase is literally a carry paper. Okay, so that's a bit of vocab that probably won't come in useful, but you never know. And les autres portent un sac. Okay, the others carrying a bag. Action. They couldn't really think of very much. It's not a photo to really describe what they are doing very much. They are au collège. Okay, ils sont au collège. Ils sont en train de, and this is where you use this phrase, they are in the middle of doing something, they are in the process of doing something. Ils sont en train de marcher et sourire. Marcher, to walk. Sourire, to smile. Location. Il y a un nouveau collège, or ils sont au collège. And then this is this is where higher candidates kind of do a bit better, a little bit of inference. Probablement, il fait froid parce qu'il porte un manteau. Okay, it's probably cold because they're wearing a coat. Mood, again, not much we can say about this, but il semble content et rigolo. So within that, then there's 4 things to remember there: picture, action, location, mood, your acronym PALM. And when we come on Friday to do the live lesson, that's something I want you to try and remember. I'm going to send you out a document to help you describe photos a little bit more fully, and then we're going to try and do a little bit of speaking practice. But think about how that's going to work first of all. Okay, today's extension task is I'm going to send out the this document here. It has a series of activities here. The vocabulaire à apprendre box, this box here, is the English, the French and the English phrases which you're going to use again and again. So it's quite a good little exercise, this, because it forces you to reuse your vocab as much as possible. So I'm going to leave you to have a look at this. There are, I think, 7 or 8 activities in total. Your extension today is to aim to complete 4 of them. You can pick any 4 of them. Each box will should give you a pretty good idea about what you need to do. Don't worry if it appears quite easy. The purpose of this is actually simply to repeat your vocab again and again, and to try and that's one way of embedding them, by repeating the phrases again and again in different ways. Okay, so your extension task for today is to have a look at this and work through 4 of the 8 activities. Okay, that's it for today. I'll send out further details about the live lesson on Friday and when that might be and what we might be doing. And any questions, just feel free to send me an email. Thank you.